hunger strikes on the M25, free-range children, medicals and mishap. The perils of kid-sized problems. Miranda and I had been sitting on the hard shoulder of the M25 for what seemed like a lifetime, waiting for the breakdown van. She soon ate up the 2 damp biscuits and a wrinkled apple lurking in the map pocket of the car. Most tantalizing find was a jar of baby food. She's well past jars, but she was about to start on the maintenance manual from starvation, and we had no spoon. I rummaged through my bag for some alternative, car keys, the round end of a nail file, but nothing worked. I could have wept. But then the M25's is a hard shoulder to cry on. At last the AA man arrived, knight on a bright yellow Charger out of the gathering gloom. He had spanners, sockets and sprockets, gaskets and hoses of every conceivable size, temporary windscreens, fan belts for all makes of foreign cars, and petrol for the feckless, but no emergency teaspoon. To cut a sorry tale short, we arrived at my Aunt Anne's in Suffolk some 4 hours later, with me carrying an exhausted baby and leading an equally weary AA man up the pitch-black winding drive to their house. That's when my aunt came out to greet us. "Honestly, Davina, you'll do anything to get copy for that column of yours." Aunt Anne's shoulder is possibly harder than that of the M25 for crying on. If travelling by car with small children has its hazards, so too does air travel. We were going to Ireland, you see, and as what remains of our car is still in Suffolk, we flew. We had to be seated in club class because there wasn't enough space in economy. Economy refreshments consist of a cup of tea and a bun, which is about right for the short haul to Dublin. Instead, the cabin staff pretended not to notice that we weren't the usual club class sort and served us with a full 5-star high tea. However, I had Miranda on my lap between me and the tray of goodies. Imagine what a growing girl can do with some elegant salami trumpets piped to the brim with cream cheese and truffles and those bitter chocolate cases with some kind of gooey filling. Airlines, you may wish to reconsider your menus if you value your upholstery. Ireland was magic. I found the countryside ravishing, and even in the towns it seemed that people love and understand and welcome children. We were visiting my number 4 sister Sandy and her husband Thomas on their free-range farm high in the Wicklow Mountains. Every child ought to spend some time on a farm. It has so many lessons to teach. Our little urbanites were intrigued to meet the animals close to. Miranda learned with some alarm at first that although in her farmyard picture book a duck takes up 1 full page, as does a cow and a tractor, in real life they are quite different proportions. Ben knew that hens laid eggs, but before his visit he could well have believed that they did it in 6s in polystyrene boxes. We collected and we sorted and we graded and we packed, and we proudly stuck on our Drumborn Farm labels and drove our own eggs to town. Ben was particularly proud of the size 5s. Size 5s are small eggs, and these healthy hens produced relatively few, so he was allowed to stand at the size 5 chute and stack them. There seemed to be more than the usual number of 5s that day, and when Ben claimed he could recognize the eggs individually, we discovered that Miranda had picked them up from the graded trays, toddling round and sending them through the system again. And then we were banned from the packing shed. But still we had the pleasure of going to feed the hens and watching them skitter in from the fields and peck absurdly at the labels on our Wellingtons. I thought that they deserved at least that much freedom in exchange for the eggs that they give. And I haven't bought a battery-laid egg since. Back in England, back to work and back to school. Benedict was called in for a medical exam at school. A bit like in the army, but you're allowed to take your mummy. Height, weight, heart, lungs, sight, hearing. Are your testicles descended, and can you draw a triangle? We passed on all counts and left with a clean bill of health, and the borough's standard leaflet on head lice. A bit like a hen getting her eggs graded. I got grade A for Benedict, but I'm afraid I almost got reject cracked shell for Miranda. I was rushing to get Ben to school on time, plunked the baby, breakfast toast still in her hand, into her buggy, and turned at his request to check that his break-time box of raisins and his Roger Red Hat reader were in his backpack, and off we set. At the first curb we came to, the buggy lurched, and out flew Miranda. I had forgotten to do up the strap. She lay on her face on the pavement. Thank God it wasn't the road. First that breath-catching silence, and then the rhythmic roar of pain. Her nose was cut and her upper lip grazed. She was inconsolable until Ben found her toast. Of course, it could have been much worse. She could have injured her head or damaged her eyes. She could have fallen on the road or in front of a bus. Now that particular horse has bolted, I shut a lot of stable doors, lashing Miranda into her high chair, double strapping her into her buggy until she must wonder if I'm into bondage. It's daunting to reflect just how careful you have to be with your children. Raw with remorse as I am now, I am tempted to restrict their exploration, keep them at home and close by. And then I remember how joyful they were on the farm, chasing silly hens, running wild. And that's how I want my children to be, brave and adventurous and free rein.